everyone. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time together talking about fallacies. Just as Aristotle gave us rhetorical devices of logos, ethos, and pathos, he was also the first to organize a list of logical errors. He made this list of logical errors so that people, when they were engaged in debate, would be able to point out problems in their opponent's argument, and also to make sure that their own argument was really solid. We call logical errors that frequently make their way into arguments fallacies. That's what we're talking about today. When we're writing an argument, we rely on rhetoric. We rely on logic, emotion, and credibility to encourage your audience to see your point of view. When somebody who's speaking or writing abuses logic, emotion, or credibility, thus manipulating the audience, that person is committing a fallacy. So you're going to do some readings about fallacies to get a little bit more depth about the different kinds of logical errors that people make. But in this presentation today, we're going to talk about a few examples. So the first category of fallacies is fallacious logic. So this is when one is abusing reason. For example, if you were to say, if I drive a car while intoxicated, I may be arrested or I get into a car crash, this is a reasonable cause and effect or if-then statement. That's logical. If, however, you were to say, either I drive my car home now or I will have to sleep here, in the same context where maybe somebody had been drinking, that person is not using sound logic. So there are other options available like calling a taxi, getting a ride, or calling a friend. This black and white reasoning is called a false dilemma or an either or fallacy. So it's a good example where you could see that this person's not abusing credibility, this person is not abusing emotion, it's just flawed logic. Let's look at some more examples of fallacious logic. Let's begin with the post hoc fallacy. You may also find this fallacy listed as post hoc ergo propter hoc, which is Latin, which means after this, therefore, because of this. In this fallacy, one assumes that because one event happened before another event, that the two events are connected. So they think that because thing A happened before thing B, that means thing A caused thing B, but correlation does not mean causation. So a common example of a post hoc fallacy is when your friend assumes that it has rained because he washed his car. We hear that one all the time. Let's watch a video from The Big Bang Theory where the character Sheldon is pointing out a post hoc error in his mom's reasoning.
Oh, hi, Mom. No, I told you I'd call you when I got home. I'm not home yet. All right, I'm home. The Arctic expedition was a remarkable success. I'm all but certain there's a Nobel Prize in my future. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm entirely certain. No, Mother, I could not feel your church group praying for my safety. The fact that I'm home safe does not prove that it worked. That logic is post hoc ergo propter hoc. No, I'm not sassing you in Eskimo talk.
Good clip. Little much in the way of the laugh track, but that's a fun one where he points out this fallacy in his mom's reasoning. Here's another example. So we see this cartoon and the one person says, everyone who went to the moon has eaten chicken, and the other person says, good grief, chicken makes you go to the moon. Very logically, we could say that if somebody eats chicken, you will not then go to the moon. Two things happen, one before the other, they're not related. That is a post hoc fallacy. Here's another common one that you may be familiar with, the hasty generalization. When one commits a hasty generalization fallacy, one draws a conclusion based on too small a sample size. For example, let's say you have a cousin who's in the 3rd grade, and your cousin can't tie his own shoes. If you then conclude that 3rd graders today cannot tie their shoes, you're making a hasty generalization. You've met one 3rd grader who can't do something. You can't make that assumption about every 3rd grader. People love to do that, though. Okay, Here is a Taco Bell commercial that shows a hasty generalization. Let's watch it.
This place is great. Many cute guys here. Do you smell bacon? Oh, yeah. It's a bacon club chalupa. Guys love bacon. That's really gonna work. Come on.
Hi. Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
What is that you're wearing? It's intoxicating.
Taco Bell's Bacon Club Chalupa is back. Bacon lovers rejoice.
All right, that's enough of that.
Smells good.
Okay, so that was a fun one. Not all men love bacon. Here is a great clip showing 9 different people fighting hasty generalizations made about their race or religion or background with a sign. So I'll let you look at that for a moment. Let's move on to the next group of fallacies, which is fallacious pathos. This means that somebody is manipulating the audience's emotions in a way that's either unfair or irrelevant to the topic in an attempt to win the argument. This is also a really common tactic people take to convince somebody of their point of view. Okay, let's begin with the slippery slope fallacy. So a slippery slope fallacy occurs when a writer or speaker claims that one action will basically snowball into a disaster. If one thing happens, they're not looking at what the next step would be, but they're looking, miles down the road at something catastrophic that could feasibly happen, maybe, but there are lots of other paths that the series of events could take. So if you have ever thought to yourself, if I don't ace this test, I'll fail the class, then I'll drop out of college and work a minimum wage job for the rest of my life, that's a slippery slope fallacy. I will say you will also see slippery slope fallacies frequently used in politics. So when you get to the assignment in this module where you are asked to look for examples of fallacies out in the real world, check politics, both sides, you'll find. Here is a fun example of a slippery slope fallacy from the Dodge car company.
Hands-free driving. Cars that park themselves. An unmanned car driven by a search engine company. We've seen that movie. It ends with robots harvesting our bodies for energy. This is the all-new 2011 Dodge Charger, leader of the human resistance.
Okay, nope, stop. So in this one, basically they're saying that the more we automate our cars, we are causing a robot revolution where robots take over the world. That is slippery slope. Maybe we automate our cars and we just get to read a book while somebody else drives us around. Here's another great example of fallacious pathos, or a manipulation of emotion. So, appeal to pity. In an appeal to pity, one asks someone to side with them or do what they want, not because it's logical, but because of the pitiful or grim circumstances of the speaker. So, as an educator, instructors are frequently asked by students to help them out at the end of the semester, because if a student gets a poor grade in a class, then maybe that person might lose a scholarship, or they might be in trouble with their parents, or it's a waste of money, or they may not get into the nursing program. So they will come tearfully to their instructors and ask for help. Well, this is actually an appeal to pity, and the real argument here is there were 16 weeks of assignments that a student should have taken on, and that's where the opportunity was to keep one's grade up. So this is a really common thing that educators see. The grade needs to be based on the student's academic performance, not on how bad the instructor feels that this student might lose a scholarship. Okay, let's move on to our last category of fallacies, which is fallacious ethos. And you've learned that ethos is not emotion. Ethos is credibility or ethics. So fallacious ethos occurs when the speaker or writer abuses credibility in an attempt to win the argument. They may abuse their own credibility, or they may try to rely on authority figures that really have no bearing in this realm of the argument. So the speaker may do this by attacking someone's character rather than attacking the argument, or by citing false or unreliable authority on the issue. Let's begin with the ad hominem attack. This is a really common one. In an ad hominem attack, the speaker or writer attacks the person rather than the merits of his or her argument. If your classmate says, "Don't take Professor Smith's class, her voice is too squeaky and she has a unibrow." Okay, well, that doesn't say anything about whether Professor Smith is an effective teacher, an engaging teacher, or somebody who you might learn a lot from. The unibrow has no bearing on what type of teacher she is. So that is an ad hominem attack. As I've said, all you have to do to find fallacies is go to politics. So whether or not you voted for Donald Trump in the last election, it's no secret that he frequently used character attacks against his opponents. So I have a quote here from an article called "Trump, King of the Ad Hominem" by Garrett Stack, written in March 2016. He made sexist remarks about Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders is a socialist whack job, Ted Cruz is a maniac, and Ben Carson is pathological. He has publicly insulted Marco Rubio for being sweaty at least 8 times. So those are direct quotes from the debates at the time. If we examine just the idea of Marco Rubio being sweaty, does that mean that he's a bad politician? No. So that is an example of an ad hominem attack. So another ethical fallacy is an appeal to false authority. So this is where somebody's making an argument and they bring in an authority figure, or somebody who sounds authoritative, but that person really doesn't have any authority in the subject area. So if I quote my doctor regarding the side effects of a medication I'm taking, I'm citing an authority. Or if I cite research that I have done in the medical journals about the effects of a particular medication, that's me using an authority. If, however, I quote the woman who served my dinner at my favorite restaurant regarding the effects of a medication I'm taking, I'm citing a false authority. So if Flo, who brought my waffles, says that this medication makes people lose their appetite, I shouldn't be citing that as an authority. I need to find a good source with knowledge on this topic to use as to cite. So a few years ago, you may remember that Jenny McCarthy was very, very vocal in saying that autism is caused by vaccinations. And this theory has been debunked and the medical community doesn't support it. And the man who originally had put forth this idea has had his medical license revoked. But still, people cited her as an authority on this issue and said that because Jenny McCarthy says that autism is caused by vaccinations, that they wouldn't vaccinate their children. So using Jenny McCarthy as an authority on something medical like this is an appeal to false authority. One last great example. You may remember Michael Jordan selling batteries. I don't know, it's just me, but I don't think maybe he is an authority on batteries. So as you are exploring fallacies, you have an assignment coming up where you're going to be asked to find examples of fallacies in the real world. First, to be able to find them, you need to be able to understand them. So make sure you read the readings that were assigned to you in the writing commons about fallacious logic, fallacious pathos, and fallacious ethos. Here's a great website that's a lot of fun. It's called Thou Shalt Not Commit Logical Fallacies at yourlogicalfallacyis.com, and you can click on little bubbles and they will show you different fallacies and explain them. It's really a fun website. When you're looking for fallacies, I do encourage you, check out Twitter. You could do a hashtag Hasty Generalization, see what comes up, watch the news, check out commercials, peruse your Facebook feed or your Snapchat or Instagram. You may find things there. And I hope that by learning about proper ways to win an argument through logic, through strong authority figures, through credibility, and then learning about how those abuses hurt our argument, that you will be able to form a really strong argument paper at the end of this module. Again, if you have questions or issues, or you just want to chat about this with your instructor, please reach out. Your instructors are always here for you. Good luck. Have a great day.